Well, greetings, everyone. I am Liz Geyer, and I'm a collaborator with Create a World. And I am so excited to be here today with Kristin Onderdonk, a good friend from New York. I'm going to read a little bio that Kristin so beautifully languaged here. So Kristin Onderdonk is a coach, intuitive healer, motivational speaker, author, and global meta-body teacher and leader. Kristin founded Enjoy Chi to help people find their joy and live life feeling recharged, something she did for herself after her 20-year career as a certified public accountant. That just amazes me. I love the flip-flopping career. Kristin currently devotes her time to men and women of all ages, offering online and in-person coaching, intuitive guidance, and stop and flow workshops and trainings. Her proudest accomplishment is the blended family she and her husband Don have created together in Syracuse, New York, where they live with their two youngest daughters and dog named Crew. Kristin is also mother to 3 amazing adult children. And I love your mantra, which is together we are more, together we are everything. So that is your life mission and mantra. And I have loved following in your footsteps, following with you in your journey. So today we're going to talk about all that, and I'm really, really excited.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for that beautiful introduction. And I'm just so excited that we get to spend this time together. Truly, we were saying before we went live how we've never met. And yet here we have this friendship, relationship, collaboratively working in different ways in our world. And just last night, I was like, oh my gosh, I get to hang out with Liz today online. Like we really do use this technology to our advantage to make our lives just so much better. And this is just an example of what you're doing, the wonderful work you're doing on Create a World. So exciting.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. I know. I feel like I'm sitting in your, what is that? Your theater? Theater.
Yeah.
Kind of. Yeah, it's beautiful.
My home studio. Yeah. My home studio, but it actually is a corner of the basement. So if I were to take you on a tour to the other, you'd see some treadmills and some other odds and ends, a refrigerator. It's amazing. We create these worlds in a box, right? This is my sacred little studio space that I lead my online classes and sessions.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Yeah. I just earned an office space because one of my children left. Well, my last child left the nest last week. So it's very, very exciting to have these spaces. Yes. Bittersweet, right?
Absolutely.
Empty nesting.
Yeah.
So today we're going to talk somewhat most of the time about your stop and flow process. And I remember, I walk this trail here in town, and I remember listening to a call that you had talking about your process, and I was just fascinated by how you had flipped your career, because that piece I hadn't known about. So I would love to hear about how you started with Enjoy Chi and with the whole process. And also I'll just throw in there too your mission of stop and flow. So
yeah, I think that, well, thank you for giving me a voice to share this journey. It's been really powerful for our family and also just locally for our community here on the ground where I live in Syracuse, as well as reaching out beyond, through technology to be able to reach people just like you and all over the world. As you pointed out, I spent 20 years in public accounting. So this time of year in particular, I would have been really working on tax returns, not always the most relaxing of jobs, although everybody's job, we all have our job stress. But anyways, we had just gotten remarried And we realized very quickly that something had to change, and it needed to be something that we were all going to be on board with. So I kind of fell into some really beautiful experiences, experiencing Tai Chi, experiencing mindfulness through some real challenges that we were having with our own children and in our own recovery journey. We are a family that does identify in thriving in long-term recovery. And I think that's important for everyone to hear, because we sometimes do have a lot of stigma and bias around what recovery may look like. And truthfully, aren't we all in recovery at some level? We were talking, I think it was in our group, we were talking about, the 3.0, version 3.0, how do we survive in the chaos? And we're not surviving, we're thriving in the chaos. So yeah, and it just became just one thing after the next, just leaning into, I knew I still wanted to be working. I just wanted to be doing things that were really filling us all and myself, and most importantly, to get to do that kind of work. So yeah, meditation and mindfulness were the first kind of stages, and Tai Chi. And then lo and behold, I ended up at Crouse Health, which is our local addiction treatment services center. Crouse Health is the larger healthcare system, actually. And they brought me in under a grant to lead moving meditation. It's crazy to even think of as I sit here. I'm like, who's that person? You have so many identities, like, wait, what? Yeah, when they brought me in, so I led moving meditation, and quickly we realized how effective it was to the men and women at all stages of addiction recovery in their journey, to be able to just get into the moment and really feel what they wanted to feel in their body. So that was really powerful. And we said, you know what, we really need to capture this data, because being the numbers girl that I was, I knew the ins and outs of the funding, and I could understand that from that lens. So we started capturing the data. We started really enjoying the feedback we were getting. And lo and behold, one day, we had this acronym, this beautiful process. I don't like to even call it a process, because it's like any step of the acronym, stop and flow, could be adapted in any moment, or all of the steps, but everything just kind of flooded into this beautiful package, really, of a collaborative way of using mindfulness and meditation, and in particular, borrowing from Tai Chi, to put it all together and give people like a smorgasbord of all of these wonderful, really scientifically proven techniques, as well as just awesome, fun things to do when they were there for an hour with us. So, and it just evolved from there. It was just like wonderful people in administrative offices and counselors who would come in and say, keep going, like, you're onto something here. Really, this is working. And that's always been my way, Liz. I know that's really a connection between you. I know that about you as well. It's just your way to see what's working, and to then have other people that show up in our experience of life that also, they see what's working. And yes, there's a lot of unworkability, but just see that working and just say, oh, we can do this together. Let's just keep moving towards here, So that's kind of the journey of long-winded story.
Well, because I'm a language junkie, I'm fascinated by the acronym, because you and I, that's a commonality that we have. We get messages through acronyms. So you did say something about the acronym, but did it just kind of flow in one day? That's my curiosity.
Yeah. So, and that's so I know of my own childhood when I needed to memorize something, or if I was really like for a test, for example, I was one of those kids who could come up with the acronym to help me remember. And I think a lot of people do that. They just don't realize that's such a strength, right? Because like you said, those messages come in and they anchor, and then we've got something bigger. So yes, it just flooded in just in that way. I was actually, I was taking a bath, splish splash, I was taking a bath. You don't have to laugh at my bad jokes. This is just part of who I am.
I love this part of you.
So yeah, I'm in the tub, and I'm taking a bath. I think it was Mother's Day. I know it was Mother's Day. I was spent. I couldn't do one more thing. And I was thinking about my week ahead. I do remember that. And I was thinking about things that had been going well with the classes at Kraus and with, all of the things that we had brought into this beyond just Tai Chi or beyond just mindfulness. And I don't say that just as if one is bad or good, not enough. It just was so robust. And I just remember sitting there, thinking about my week, and like a Tetris, boom, like the acronym fell in. Every single phrase, every single energy that I knew would relate to it, and then all of the steps. And I was of the moving meditations, I will say. And I just sat there, I remember I grabbed my journal, because I'm a weirdo, and yes, I take journals into the tub with me. And I just started scribbling, get it down on paper, scribble. And it was there. And I do, we honed it a bit. I know that language, it created, there was some articulation that shifted a bit, but essentially, it's whole. I wish I had that scribble piece of paper, actually.
Oh, yeah.
Someday, I hope I find it.
That would be really cool. That would be really cool. I remember coming up with a business with my former husband called Frayed Not, and it was a mobile boat business, Frayed, right?
Yes.
And we were just joking around. We were out to dinner and playing around with names, and it it's a divine thing. It really is.
It is.
It's a really cool process. I have one that I just wrote for Able. Awareness, balance, banked, lives eternally.
Mm.
Yeah, it's amazing how it can give you a whole landscape of whatever you're moving into. I just love it.
Yeah, so cool.
Yeah, so okay, so you moved, from this really what I call left-brained way of living and existing to this really whole system response way. And that I remember being on the trail that day, and I think I had just retired, and I was still trying to find my footsteps. Being in education, you're so regimented in this lifestyle, and so what it did for me in learning your process, it really helped me to move into relaxing and pausing. And I love what you said about that you really took a pause and you had some time to kind of look and see what would benefit your family. And I think that's wonderful that you were able to find that at that time in your life. For me, I was a single parent, being in education. They're really, and that was my life. It was very important that I stay there because it really influenced where I am now and what I'm doing with people. So I think that's important to hear right now too, because I see that there are so many people who are stopping and pausing here. And of course, in that pause, there is chaos. And so I'm wondering, I don't know if you can speak to that at all, being in that pause, if that brings back memories for you, or and kind of how you move through that. Well, this came in, right?
Yeah. So I hear you. We do we put it in that left brain or right brain, or the logic, the creativity. We all have that whole system response, and when we take time to pause, to stop, and to be present, isn't it interesting how it all comes flooding in? And that's truly, because there is motion in stillness and there is stillness in motion. And we know this. So, yeah, that just slowing down to take some time for your own needs, whatever the circumstances are. And that's really that's all I think I did, and that's all you did, and that's all any of us can do, is just when we know that something is not necessarily feeling awesome to us, we take a moment and breathe and be. That phrase in itself holds a whole lot of magic, to just be present, to see what the motion is. What is the motion in the stillness? Is it chaos? Yeah, maybe, but also what else is there, right? If we're just there long enough to just be listening and hearing, really seeing what could be beyond that chaos. It's there, it's all held within us. So in the time, I guess if I go back to where I was when that was all going on, there was a lot of circumstantial chaos in our blended family coming together as a system. Normal, right? You've got this mom over here, you've got this dad over here, awesome people, kids, trickle it down, look at a tree of life, you got all these branches. And of course, you bring that all together and there's going to be a wobble, there's going to be chaos, but there was also so many things that were going right. And we knew, for example, my husband's job was going really well. And that could be the flip, it could be a wife's job was going really well. And we were watching that and we were seeing, my job was great, but it wasn't really bringing any life enhancing value to our family at that time. From an ego standpoint, was it hard for me to let go of the CPA title and that role identity? Absolutely. I mean, I think actually back to how many times I failed the CPA exam before I passed it. And we know we have a mutual friend who's in this failing. Not every failing is a failure. It needed to be like, okay, I can let this go because there's something so much more that you're being called to be doing and present to in this family. And, so I don't know that every person on the planet needs to step away from the job they hate. For example, I certainly don't want to be communicating or conveying that. And I didn't step away from a job I hated, quite honestly. I stepped away from a career that I had put a lot of heart and soul, heavy, work. So yeah, I mean, just feeding into what was working, I think is what happened. And in the chaos that was happening, we knew we needed to have a more expansive presence in the house of someone with my husband traveling. In fact, I'd love actually to, you're bringing me into that Tic Tac story that actually I write about, because what's happening as I'm thinking back to that time in my life, I'm really remembering what was happening. You talk about chaos. Let's read. Do you mind if I read you this chapter from my book?
Read it. Yes, please.
Okay. Let's go there.
Story. Every family has one.
Yes, we all have this story. This is not my story. Yeah. So what was going on in our life? Okay. So many moons ago, my daughter Alexis and I had quite a day. It was 2005, and I had just gotten remarried to my husband, Don. I went from being a single mother of one child to a mother of four and a husband who traveled for work most weeks all week long. I was determined to be the perfect mom, stepmom, accountant, and wife. And I now observe I carried around a lot of stress. I was moving in a million directions and very whelmed. It was Friday morning. It was 7:20 a.m. to be exact, one picture perfect school picture day at school. And we were just a block from the house when my then kindergartner Alexis screamed, "It's up my nose!" What? I screamed back as I pulled the car over. Yep. Somehow she had sniffed a Tic Tac right up her left nostril. Out of sheer frustration, desperate to save our perfect morning attendance, I admonished her for having done such a thing. I told her, stretch that nostril open and find the missing Tic Tac. My nose is on fire, she yelled. I did what every mother, every person driving a car should do. I called my husband in Philadelphia. He shot back, go to urgent care. Called the pediatrician. They called me right back. And the nurse said, stop, turn around. Don't go to urgent care. Go straight to the hospital emergency room. Seriously, I asked? Yes. Urgent care is inept at foreign objects. Nice nurse know-it-all stayed on the line. She provided me turn-by-turn directions, and she even faxed the ER. I'm not kidding. Mom is on her way with daughter and a Tic Tac. It's okay, she assured me. And she told me about how her son once put a Cocoa Puff up his nose and almost aspirated. That's reassuring, I thought. Stay calm, ma'am, she said. I need you to watch her color. But I'm driving, I said. Everything was quiet at that moment, Liz. And somehow I kept quiet too, which is not my strength. She then added, my daughter broke a crayon off in her ear once and almost went deaf. You're on speakerphone, I said. I could hear and feel my beating, racing heart over the rush hour traffic and the pouring rain. Just breathe, I heard a voice inside me say. Faith Hill could also have been playing on the radio. That was our favorite song. Either way, we arrived at the ER and I tore through security and I shouted, cried out, we have an emergency. And a nice triage nurse came right over to us. She asked us a lot of questions, height, weight, would I like a tissue? Nose dripping. My daughter snatched that tissue and she blew once, twice, 3 times. Out popped the minty Tic Tac. The nurse looked me up and down, and with that sly, knowing every nurse knows this, that smile. Mm-hmm. Do you want to forget you were ever here? Oh, did I? And out those revolving doors, past the security guard, back to our car, we walked. Yep, nothing to see here. Just another miracle in the books, I heard that voice inside me say. And she reminded me, breathe, observe, clarity, in motion, right under your nose. Now, somehow that's always been with us all along. And I knew that the nuns would love that unruly excuse when we showed up late. And as I buckled her back into her little booster seat in the back seat, she innocently asked me, Mom, why didn't you just give me a tissue? And all I could say to that then, and all I really still say to that now is, we just weren't at that point in the story yet. And we're getting, like, we just keep going, right? Yeah. And moving with what's right under our nose when we stop and flow.
I love that story. And I'm sure everyone here listening will come up with their own. And my youngest daughter will not be happy with me, but I have to say it because hers was a Barbie shoe up her nose. That's really special. And it was a special moment. Same thing. We didn't go to the ER because my partner, who was a medic in Vietnam, thank goodness, knew exactly what to do.
Well, so what if we were, just coming in, it's like, what if we were kind of cool with, hey, I was really supposed to be at the ER that day to meet this nice nurse and to have this great conversation and, whatever. Like we were all meant to be there. And maybe Alexis did that, somehow something guided her. That's where we were going to be. And that's where we went. There's my friend yesterday in one of my sessions, because we were talking about this specific story in a version of a gentleman in my class had something similar happen with his son. And someone else said, do you remember the episode of House? Do you remember the TV show House with the doctor that was kind of quirky, but he'd always figure out these really bizarre things? Okay. So Dr. House had this kid that kept coming in week after week with something up his nose. And the first one was like a little Lego, like a police officer, the little like figurines. And they'd take it out and send him home. Comes back and he's got like a little fireman and he'd send him back. Like, what the heck? So the third time he comes back and he's got a little ambulance and he sticks it in there. And House is like, wait a minute, this is just too bizarre. Like, why is he doing this? What is he trying to tell us? Well, he was actually trying to tell them all that he had something stuck higher up in his nose and he was trying to send help. Police officer, fireman, ambulance. I mean, we just don't know why people put things where they do or why we end up where we do. But what if we could just kind of feel into that and not get so uptight, you know?
Yeah. I just want a belly laugh here. It's hilarious. But also, yes, I love this in your language with stop and flow. In mine, I call it composting. Being in the muck. I recall doing some training for what's called the nurtured heart approach in working with children and adults, and helping them move through whatever they were moving through. And as part of the practice, it was like we're saying now, to stop and feel it and be in it. And I thought, I want to turn this into a positive. So that's I got this image of being in a cave with the 7 dwarves and mining for gems in the muck that was down underneath the planet, right, or in the planet.
Yeah.
And then composting that. I mean, composting those gems, because that's what comes out of it, right? Totally.
Yeah.
So
absolutely. We still belly laugh. What a gem. What a gem.
Yeah. So I'd like to hear more about, now you've talked about bringing the process of stop and flow or the practice into the hospital. There are other places, right, that you've used this. Where else have you been with it and used it?
Yeah, I mean, we've used it in schools, and I do see that that's going to come back around. It's starting to scale again, or coming back around to where at this point. So when I first started with the practice of stop and flow, it was created in the addiction recovery setting. And then slowly but surely, it's really rippled out into the community. And so I was fortunate enough to be able to get the foundational training around what this practice is approved for continuing education now in New York State. I'm really excited about, because it now allows me to give social workers in New York State, for example. So think of every school, everywhere we have social workers, they can have continuing ed for taking this type of a training. And, is this very different than a teacher who is doing mindfulness wisely before she starts her class, or, does something movement wise somatically to get people engaged during class? Absolutely wonderful that they're doing that. But where I'm really passionate is about building community. I think that's kind of one of the things that really connects us as well, because I know you really thrive in community. And so I really want to elevate the well-being of the individual and the community. And so if we can have teachers, imagine in the same way that in the recovery setting, we have counselors now and peer recovery specialists. So people who are like in their recovery journey and more now support for those that are earlier in their stage of recovery. If we can have this modality out there in schools or in other community centers, and everyone can be speaking a similar language around meditation, mindfulness, somatic movement, all big words on their own, instead of pulling this YouTube video or that, article, which is all great. But if we could get some momentum behind a collective practice, now we have something that really can scale in community, and we're visual. So I envision posters and, t-shirts and other artwork that is going to come out from people wanting to say, oh yeah, we do this thing called stop and flow together. And that's what happened in the recovery community. It was like there were counselors that weren't necessarily the ones that were in with me, because I always have a counselor in the room. I'm fortunate to have a staff member with me that's in the system that I'm working in. But there were others that were in their office or with other places. Like, keep hearing about this thing called stop and flow. Like, we want to try that, or we want to use that. And when they did, they're, oh my gosh, we really want to bring this to our patients. So I think that there's something there that's scaling, and I get really excited about that, because it's just so effortless to take that time, but we don't have the language necessarily, or even the access to those techniques collectively, as a group and community, I guess, right? We're all kind of doing our thing, but we actually can do these things together and make a shift, if you will.
Yeah, I'm so excited to hear that it's starting to branch out into other areas. It brings me back to my last year of teaching in 2019. Finally, our teachers were beginning to stop the academic piece and move into mindfulness or move into movement in between. And they were starting to realize that the kids needed that shift. And so they were using, I know it's still out there, Go Noodle, which is, kind of a dance thing. And they were, starting to use that. And then my then principal started doing a mindfulness thing over the loudspeaker every morning. And I was just blown away, right? And very, very excited. So I could, of course, wearing my educational leader hat, I would love to see this move into the schools, because I still tutor children with special needs, and this practice, the kids are craving it. They really, really are. And I know it is moving in, more slowly nationwide, not everywhere, but how cool would that be? And definitely, I want the mug and I want the t-shirt.
And the common language that lands on the mug and the t-shirt, right? So
yes.
Because we have all of these wonderful tools and techniques and all this stuff, what if we could collectively have conversations in flow, right? That's really the biggest, my favorite part of the sessions that I lead. The sessions are great. They're mindfulness, they're moving meditation, they're stillness meditation. Anybody can do what I do, and I'm training others to do that. So rest assured that's happening. But the conversations in flow that happen after people have taken a time to be centered and to come into that, we know it holds. They are profoundly moving. And imagine having common language around simple phrases. I call them chi charged phrases that make up the acronym. And the simple energies that kind of go along with each of those phrases that everyone really we already know. We are talking about intentions. We're talking about, contrast. These are words, but they carry a lot of energy with them. Imagine having a conversation specifically around even one of those. And it's just that, to me, is where I think we have a chance to figure our way through the chaos. Like we can make it if we can actually stay in conversation together and relate. And that's really what the book kind of evolved into, because the original version of the book had none of the stories that I like. The Tic Tac story wasn't in it. And that's those are the conversations in flow, right? Those are the most important points. So that's now, okay, that makes sense. Now it landed in my life. I get it, what clarity could be. So
yeah, I love that. Yes. I had an experience just a few weeks ago where I got stuck. I was stuck in the mind. I was looping. And I reached out for help, and our mutual friend, Victoria walked me through, and it took somatic movement, and it took me having to talk to the mind at that time. And she did a similar practice with me to move me through, and then everything started flowing again. So I would love to go through, because there are probably going to be people that are attracted to hearing about the process. I'd like to go through and have you show and tell what each of the words stands for, the acronym.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. So the first letter of the word stop, the letter S, stands for stop where I am. The second letter is the letter T, tap into heart. Third letter O, observe. Fourth letter P, picture positive. Flow. The first letter F, feel the spark. Second letter L, let self move. Third letter in flow, the O, observe. Last letter, the W, where now. And like I said, those phrases in and of themselves carry a lot of charge, a lot that get, a lot of messaging, right? We could go deep on any step, and we do when we're in the training of the practice. But when we're actually in the experience of the process, we don't even have to know a single letter, right? We're just guiding. I'm guiding, and others facilitate and will guide the process. So the steps, what it might look like is that stillness. Stop represents the stillness aspect of meditation. We use our hands and we guide it through. And let's take a moment and let's drop into the process, because I think it's more fun, and I think it's more maybe more meaningful as well. So I like to push my chair back away from all the technology and the desk, which do hold a lot of energy. I'm not moving myself away from you. All right. So connect your feet to the floor. Maybe you didn't notice that your feet were actually planted on the floor. And if they're not, go ahead and land them there now. And definitely do uncross your ankles and sit up nice and tall, kind of moving into this space of stillness, and maybe placing our palms face up on our lap for a moment. And when it feels safe to do so for you, please do close your eyes. And you can always just keep a soft gaze if you like, but my voice will guide you through the process. You can trust that. And as you drop in, just give yourself a moment to say thank you to yourself for giving yourself this time to take a moment to stop right where we are. Just tending to your breath, nowhere to go, nothing to do, no place to be. Just kind of scanning our body, acknowledging the floor, the earth below us. Body seated comfortably as possible in a chair, relaxing, breathing and being. Head floating in the clouds. And again, thank you for taking time to breathe and be. And I'll offer a couple of mantras. If any of them land, feel free to repeat them in your own mind's eye. Where I am is not who I am. Who I am is so much more. You can repeat that one word, more, more, more. Together we are more. Together we are everything. And notice how that lands in the palm of your hands. And when you're ready, allow your palms of your hands to just kind of float up over your head, where we'd say our mind might be. Over your head, you'll move your hands. So let your hands float right on up. Yes, beautiful. And just allow them to hover as you now notice cool air coming in through your nose, maybe warmer air being exhaled out of your mouth. And let's shift our energy, attention, and focus, and let's just drop our hands down to where our heart exists. And we're going to hold one hand off the space of the heart, and the other is going to tap softly over the collarbone. And as we tap into heart, continue to just breathe and be. Beautiful. You're doing great. And just notice what comes up for you. Maybe a big dream, an intention for the day. Be really choosy. And when you've got that intention for yourself today, maybe it's to feel calm, feeling motivated, inspired. Begin to tap and repeat that to yourself a few times as you tap, tapping into feeling good, tapping into feeling, tapping in, tapping into the heart. Beautiful. And then taking our hands, our energy, attention, focus, drop it down to where your belly is. And if it feels good to do so, give yourself a little hug. You can always leave your hands way out far. You can put them right on your belly. I call this my Buddha belly. My kids cringe. That's the whole point. Close your eyes. Take that big conscious breath all the way in from the belly and just see how the expansiveness of that breath, maybe the first really nice, long, purposeful breath of the day, rises up to greet you, releases the mind, and allowing that exhale, it just kind of clears all the way down to the ground where your feet are planted, deeply rooted, connected into the earth. No pace is wrong, so just take your time. Begin to observe. Maybe there's some place in your body that needs a little love, a little attention. Maybe there's a little stuck energy somewhere. You may or may not even know where it exists. But as you breathe deeply and completely, inhaling all the way up from the earth, exhaling all the way out into the cosmos, just inviting in, releasing as you exhale. You're doing great. Take another cleansing breath. Again, inviting in, releasing down and through. Beautiful. And then our hands come back to the heart, and you can hold your hands one over the other and just bow your head. And take a moment to just visualize in your mind's eye, picture something positive, something life enhancing. Keep it really general, a sunrise, a sunset. My dog had his chin just landed on his favorite turtle stuffed animal toy this morning. Just find what visually lights you up. Picture this positive, life enhancing image in your mind's eye. And with each inhale and exhale, as you breathe deeply and completely, see this imagery illuminating, sparking something in you. You may or may not even know where it is, into more. Full spectrum of colors here. All the sounds, all the sensations. With each inhale, they just kind of flood into this beautiful picture in your mind's eye. More. Everything. And maybe you even sense your heart responding. Breathe and be. Remember, you can come back to this place at any time simply by remembering. And let's open up our hands and open up our palms of our hands and opening up, reaching, and let's land them back down on our lap. Take it easy, take it slow, take your time. Maybe roll your shoulders and come back into your vision with your open eyes at some point that feels good for you. Take your time. And come back at any time. And then I always ask, wouldn't it be nice to move this good energy through us in a more physical way? And most times I see people's heads bobbing, which is lovely that I didn't tell you to do that, but it happens. And so that point in the process, I would invite you to join me at my mat. And you don't need a lot of room. You need enough room to spread your wings and take maybe a step in one direction or the other. And if you want to stay seated, stay seated. We have plenty of people in our groups that don't have the physical capacity to take even a single step physically. And yet they see results by being in the room. And we know this. We know this to be true with all meditation practices. So stand and join me if you'd like, or stay seated, whichever you would prefer. And
stay seated.
Yeah, you're going to stay seated. Okay, good. Okay. So we're just going to take one move. We're not going to do the whole flow, but we're going to take one move. And one of my favorite moves, and it's a favorite that many who practice Tai Chi will probably be familiar with, but if you're not, you're already an expert. You know how you see someone and you're like, oh, hey, hi, nice to see you, right? And we all do that, right? So do that with me and just a single-handed, you're walking around, oh, hi, nice to see you there. Good, beautiful, expert. Do it to the other side now. You're walking through, oh, there she is. Hey, I know you. Beautiful, perfect. So now let's hold a beautiful tree. We're going to hug this beautiful, beautiful tree. We all do this too, all of us weirdos. And we're just going to inhale. We're going to let our head float. And we're going to scoop on under this. This move's actually called embracing the moon. Yeah, so we've got this beautiful moon lit. And we're going to toss it in the air. And we're just kind of playing, hanging out, doing this whole thing we do, which is embracing, hugging. Beautiful ball of energy. Yeah. And then we're going to turn over here and, oh my God, we saw a friend. Hello. And then let your hand drop and let your other hand kind of float up because you've got places to go, people to see on the other side of the world. Oh, another friend. Let it drop. Cloud hands. Beautiful, back and forth. You're doing great. Wow, you've done this, I think, before. Maybe add some breath work in as you exhale and kind of gaze past that upper moving hand. Yeah. And maybe breathing in as you wave to your friend and find a new tour across the horizon. Yeah. Breathing in, gazing beyond the clouds, always sunshine. One last breath on in, one last cloud ride across the horizon, through the heart. Beautiful. Let's let everyone catch up here and we'll bring it all the way back to the center and hug it out, air hugs. This is how we relate now. A big breath on in, a big breath on out, expanding all that energy out beyond where we are. And let that land. Yes. And I always like to come back to the heart. It's not the traditional Tai Chi, whatever. We landed here. And I mean that with all due respect. Thank you so much for taking time to stop and flow with me, Liz, Geyer. Awesome.
Oh my gosh. Woo. That's a great way to start the day. I'm going to be driving later, so I had as my mantra, calm, focused practice. And you brought me back to, I started doing chair yoga. And the teacher kind of, talks about that as well, having that mantra. So it just came in really naturally. But oh my goodness, what is so powerful. It is so powerful, just that simple, centering, um, and being, having teaching in my blood, I can just see how crucial this this practice is for kids and adults.
Yeah.
Wow, it would really reduce the stress in the learning process, wouldn't it?
It sure would. And honestly, I'm really humbled to even be given the gift to be able to communicate it in this lifetime, because um, it really is just for me, for my own perspective, and also for the many that I've worked with. We say that it's just the right amount of like form and flavor, structure and flexibility, consistent, to be able to give us something that's really magical, and to be able to opens us all up into something that's so much more. So a joy to be able to experience it every time, and then to be able to give it away freely. It's so simple. It's like, it's not that hard to learn 8 moves, right? I mean, but if you said, I want to go learn Tai Chi, that's a long journey. And I suggest you do. I have spent years studying Tai Chi, but there are so many great nuggets to be gained from authentic movement, yoga, Tai Chi, all of it. For some reason, this is the recipe that I was, given in the tub one day. It's not the only recipe, by the way. Like I fully expect that when I give it away and others begin to facilitate, that's what gets me excited, because I know that more will be added to it. I know that it will change and morph and take on another life of its own. It certainly has a life of its own, because there's no other reason that the old I identity, CPA, wake up every day excited to talk about, playing in the clouds. Just completely would not make sense to anyone who knew me, thought they knew me. Do we ever really know any of us? And isn't that fun to keep going?
Oh my
I don't know.
Yeah, it's kind of the whole package is the way I see it, neatly wrapped in a bow. Wow. And what was that, like 7 minutes or something? I don't know.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Isn't that cool? Like, it's just fast, and you could do it all in your mind. Like, now you have that experience in your body.
Yeah.
Come back to it at any point. You're going to giggle. Oh, look, every time you wave to somebody today, you're going to think, cloud hands. I know I'm going to. You feel free to.
I love that. Oh my gosh. And then doing this is one of my favorites. And you have, there's so much body memory for me in that move, because we had a dancer in chorus with us who then retired, but she would come back for every concert, and she would do that move with us, and of course some others. And so by the time we got on stage, we were just completely centered and calm and all of that. So it's so
the magic of the hands alone. I mean, we talk all day on how we shake hands with another when, I still do, by the way. We high five. It's the message of, like, we carry so much, the energy, the attention, the focus. It transcends all stories, beginning of time. And I think you and I definitely, just what you were describing, we have remembrance and recall around the power that is within each of us for our own wonderfully thriving existence here. Even in the worst of circumstances, because it's hardest to come into this practice when you're already in crisis, right? But if you wake up daily and you try and implement this before you head on out the door, perhaps things shift. We know they do. And then again, when the shit hits the fan, my friend, and chaos is all around us, you know where I'm going.
Totally. I have this amazing young man that I work with. He's in 7th grade, about to turn 13, and just so special. And you talked about the hand, and it brought back a memory of yesterday. We got through, we were doing proportions and percents and fractions, and I was trying to get him to remember what he had been taught in class, because he doesn't take notes. And he said, oh yeah, and then he wrote it down, and then we both worked the problem. We both got the right answer, same answer, and he said, high five, so he really drives the session, and it was so rewarding. And the other piece is that I could bring this to him, because on his own, he's taken it on himself to create his own routine now, which I want to cry every time I think about how far this young man has come from very, very unfocused to creating this routine for himself. And he's stretching his body and moving and really wanting to increase his physical stamina. And I was showing him how to stretch his legs yesterday, because he wasn't sure. And so I can see where bringing this in would be really helpful, because he's very active.
Yeah.
Still. So, and I know he'd get into it too. He'd love it. So.
And imagine, you getting trained to facilitate, and then you also sharing that beautiful story with a facilitator in New York or a facilitator in London, we all have these beautiful stories, and that's where we change the world, because now we are all collectively speaking a language that is held in the body, that clears the trauma, and we don't now have to sit stuck. We thrive.
Yeah. Wow. Oh my goodness. I mean, sit and ponder that for a second. That is, it's just, I'm just really excited. I'm going to plant a seed here. I would love to see this move into the schools. Of course, that's my bailiwick. So, planting that seed to see what happens now.
Yeah.
As we say, it's in the field.
It's in the field, and they are germinating faster than this girl can keep up. So yes, I mean, the same process that I took to get people's continuing ed covered for social workers in New York, same exact organization in California, same exact organization in every state in our country, in the US. So just a matter of applying and getting those going. I mean, this is how, I think that's an attractive point, where they want continuing eds, but yeah, it's happening. And with the online courses that actually, I have a course, I just did it on demand, recorded course, so that people who don't, because so many people are, especially in counseling sessions, they're already overburdened to try and find time to get together. So I have an on demand for the first level now, all in the house. And I don't know how, honestly, I marvel at how the energy behind this is behind me getting it out, because it's not logical in any way, shape, or form.
Wow. So am I to understand that you're teaching, you're like a train the trainer, the whole paradigm way?
Correct. Yeah, we have evolved into train the trainer world. Yes. So level 1 is the foundational experiential journey into stop and flow. And then level 2 is the facilitator certification. Then we go out as community and facilitate the process in our own neck of the woods, like you with your beautiful student, and teachers in their beautiful schools, and every addiction treatment center in the country. And I think there's power behind that. So, yeah, some momentum.
Wow.
Yeah. Exciting.
Oh my gosh. It is really, really exciting. So we have just a couple of minutes left. Are you also like on YouTube? Do you do any of your sessions like that at this point in time, or?
Most from my website, enjoychi.com is where all the information, all information, enjoychi.com, and or stop and with the word and spelled out flow.com will redirect. and I work mostly remotely. So from anywhere in the world, we can do sessions, and absolutely excited to be traveling as well soon. So,
Oh,
yeah.
wow. That's great. Well, it has been such a joy. I don't want our playtime to
I know, me neither. I know. Me
end.
neither. We need to keep this
Yeah.
up. Our
Yes,
this is good to see you and good to be with you in this way.
it
Really fun.
is. It is. And for anyone who's listening, I hope you take this practice with you, embrace it, and I'm so excited for you for what's to come, Kristin. Yes,
Thank you,
and
Liz.
our continued friendship, and yes,
thank you.
working together.
I know in my heart, I appreciate and receive that as it is for me. I know in my heart it's for us, or we wouldn't be having this conversation. So I'm excited to be
Great. Well, take